You may proceed.
Sorry, can we just remind people to mute when they're not speaking? Thanks.
Good point. I'd like to call this meeting of the Committee of Adjustments in session. May I get an approval of the agenda minutes?
I approve.
Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, are there any? Or conflicts of interest, whichever way you want to say it.
None here.
Hearing none, we'll move on. Pardon me?
It was the echo. Someone forgot to mute.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Approval of minutes.
Sorry.
Recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment minutes dated September 9, 2021 be accepted as presented. Does anybody find any errors or omissions? Anybody find any errors or omissions? We seem to have a problem here with the audio, eh?
Yeah, we are.
I think we just have to remind people to mute when they're not speaking.
Okay, hearing none, I'll ask that we approve the minutes as presented. May I have a mover and a seconder, please?
I'm not sure if I'm moving or seconding, but Slender.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, new business. Staff report 03-2021 minor variance application, south side of Prescott Center Drive. Recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment approve the minor variance MV 2021-05 requested with the following conditions. The balance, if any, of outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, shall be paid to the town of Prescott. That site plan approval is obtained within 1 year. That appropriate screening features be provided where the subject property abuts a residential use to the satisfaction of the town through site plan approval. That the applicant provide a photometric plan to demonstrate dark sky compliance and minimize light trespassing to adjacent residential uses through site plan approval. That the applicant submits a noise impact brief to analyze the impact of the proposed commercial use on the adjacent residential uses and to implement its recommendations through site plan approval. That approval of the variances is granted and fixed to the general size, location, extent, and design of the proposed development as shown on the site plan attached to the application, and that the applicant obtain provisional consent approval to sever the lands to the general size and extent as shown on attachment 1 site plan, and that necessary planning approvals be obtained to support the proposed severance. Okay, so can we, Mr. Merriman, are you president?
Actually, I'll be presenting this report. It's Matthew Armstrong.
Okay, if you'd like to go ahead, sir.
Okay, so just for everyone on the meeting today, so I'll be presenting the report. There'll be an opportunity for the committee members to ask any questions they might have. We have both Angela Zhao, who is from WSP, who works on behalf of the town from planning matters. We also have Colin Jardine from Eastern Engineering, who is representing the owner, as well as we have Sean Merriman, who is our chief building official. So once any questions are asked and answered, there'll be an opportunity for any of our guests that we have in attendance today and to ask any questions that they might have. And then following that, the committee members can once again ask questions of any of the individuals on the phone or in the meeting today. So without further ado, I'll start presenting the minor variance application. So the purpose of this application is to find relief from the setback that is between the south property, which is the last property on Mackenzie, and the side of the building. So according to our site or our zoning requirements, normally there'd be an 18-meter buffer between the two. However, the development has a 13.27 meter setback. So it's only on the south side of the building that it's being requested, and the setback of greater than 18 meters was achieved to the east side of the building, between the building and the first house on Fishel. So from a policy review, when considering a minor variance, the committee has to take a look at four main items. First is the application minor in nature. Is it desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, and structure? Is it keeping with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? And is it keeping in the general intent and purpose of the official plan? So from a perspective of minor in nature, the applicant has requested a reduction of 4.73 meters, which is approximately 15 feet, to the setback on the south side of the building against the lot line with the first or last house on Mackenzie. When determining if the variance is minor or not, it's not necessarily just based on numerical calculation, but it's also the overall location of the structure, as well as considering the nature of the impacts on the street and neighboring properties. So in this particular case, the building will be fronting to the west, and so it will be facing McDonald's, and the south side of the building will be, there will be no vehicle access, nor pedestrian access, and there'll be no loading activities on that side. What you saw this evening in terms of the requirements for conditions on the minor variance is that the lighting and noise both be addressed through a photometric plan and a noise brief, and that the developer has already indicated that they're willing to put in a noise barrier on both the south side of the property that runs along that residential, as well as the east side of the property that runs along the residential lot as well. So when all of those are taken into consideration, it's in the opinion of both staff as well as our planning advisors that the variance being requested is minor in nature. Next is the appropriateness, and taking a look at how the uses between both employment opportunities and commercial uses in the neighborhood, with the development or with the conditions of the noise barrier, as well as the photometric plan, ensuring that it meets the dark skies requirements, that it would appear that it's appropriate and desirable use of the land. The intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw is to make sure that there's adequate setback distance, and that when the setback isn't met, that are there mitigating options that can be done. And so again, the noise barrier, as well as the visual screening, such as the trees that will be put along both the south side, as well as new plantings onto the east of the building, would, from a visual perspective, reduce that. The noise barrier would reduce the sound being able to travel, and then ensuring that the lighting is in a downcast position it helps to alleviate the concerns when it comes to lighting flowing beyond the borders. In terms of the intent of the official plan, that particular area was to be developed for large format retail. There was a large number of possible uses, including shopping centers, big box stores, general retail stores, and then as well as smaller scale that were permitted in the highway commercial. From there, it also designated that that we clearly define entry features, landscape, signing, lighting, landscaping, all of which have been addressed in this particular development and application. This is an area where the Ministry of Transportation has some say, and they've, I believe, already received the application for building this development. I'm not aware of that, if that application has been granted or not, but I do believe it's in the process. In terms of other items that the official plan foresees is that really trying to bring forward both the commercial and additional employment opportunities in the town, as well as developing commercial to broaden the tax base. And so all of those things put together, it looks and feels like it would be applicable or go along with the intent of the official plan as well as the zoning bylaw. So as I mentioned previously, there's a number of caveats and conditions that were put on this particular minor variance, and many of them would be dealt with through site plan control. So that's the presentation of the application itself, and more than happy to answer any questions there might be.
Well, just to clear up something for myself, Matthew, I read in there that there's a proposal where there's supposed to be 4.94 acres, and this has gone down to 2.45. Is that the way it's supposed to be, or do they have to get a permit to change that size, or what's the scoop on that?
They will be required to submit, which is a condition of the minor variance, as well as the site plan for a severance.
Okay, because my only thing was if they had the 4.94 and they moved it more to the west, they wouldn't have to have a setback, right? Because there's more land back behind there. That was the only point. Any other committee members would like to speak? I'd like to hear from you.
I have my hand up. Can I speak?
Sure, I can't see your hand, sorry.
I'm just gonna lower my hand now. Okay, so I guess I have some questions. Like, first of all, where did we come up with the need for 48 parking spots?
So the zoning bylaw stipulates the number of parking spots that are required as per the size of the building. In this particular case, for every, I believe, let me just take a look. So for every 20 square meters of the building, a parking spot is required.
So is that based on the whole Boxing Day thing? You know, because this is one of the things we learned in planning school is that Boxing Day kind of dictates the size of parking lots generally, because you're trying to accommodate for that one day. And dollar stores, there's no way people are rushing there on a Boxing Day, right? Like, I don't think we need to have that same kind of parking.
No, it's this wasn't developed based on Boxing Day standards. It's based on a more industry standard when it comes to the number of parking spots required.
Right, but the history of that is based in Boxing Day. I guess I'm just thinking 48 parking spots, almost 50 parking spots seems like a lot for a dollar store at any given time. And I guess my thinking is, why don't they just reduce some of those parking spaces? And why doesn't the town grant an allowance to not have to have that many parking spots? Because, like, really, that's a lot of parking spots for a dollar store. I've never seen that many parking spots for a dollar store in my life.
So the only minor variance that's being considered this evening is the setback to the south side of the building.
I guess I'm just wondering though, can we work together? Because like there are a lot of things wrong, I think, with this plan. They're going to cut down trees and then put in the stormwater basin. So trees do a much better job of absorbing floodwater than man-made infrastructure. And why aren't we putting green cement in, like thirsty cement? With the, we're going to be looking at net zero. We're aiming for net zero in 2050, which is only 30 years away. We're supposed to be reducing down to 40 to 45% GHG emissions by 2030. So I'm just like, I see this looks very like old school to me, high emissions, high concrete. A lot of, look, I guess I don't really understand this design. And for me, I'm not inclined to say yes, because to me, it just looks like very outdated and not contributing to good sustainable planning.
So the committee has to consider this in the context of what the current official plan and the current zoning bylaw is, as opposed to something that currently isn't in place. So I think that would be the first item. So anything that currently fits within the zoning bylaw would be approved without having to go to minor variance or committee of adjustment. So I think the only thing that we're focusing on this evening is the reduction of the setback from 18 meters to 13.27.
So, and where exactly is that setback happening? I wasn't totally sure. Is that happening where there's that landscaped area, or is it where there's the parking spots?
So the setback is between the building and the property to the south on Mackenzie Drive.
I mean, and are they all that same size? Are all Dollaramas that size?
I'll let perhaps Colin Jardine answer that.
This was the size that Dollarama requested from the developer. We haven't done too many standalone Dollaramas. There's one in Brockville, but the 10,000 square feet was what they had requested in the design. So,
How big is the one in Brockville?
I can look it up in a couple of seconds. I don't know off the top of my head.
Thanks.
I'll do that and while I'm listening.
Okay, thanks.
If I may, Slender, I'm thinking that in the future, we can't always say that the building will remain a Dollarama, and if it goes into something else, I would imagine that the parking requirements might be higher. So I'm inclined to think that the town plan is solid enough to warrant that many parking spaces.
May I say something?
Certainly.
Megan Wyman. Yeah, I agree that the parking is certainly important. That plaza is increasingly more and more busy all the time. So even though the building itself is going to sit closer to the property line on the south side, most of the activity of the building, because the loading and everything, all the parking is on the side opposite the housing. The concerns from the neighbors with lighting and sound seem to have been addressed, and without trucks going on that side of the building, I don't see a big concern, and I'd be apt to make sure that there's lots of parking there because that plaza is always very busy.
Any other members have anything else?
It may speak. I don't have any objections to this variance. However, I would like to hear from some of the residents. I found some of the comments very interesting, and I'm sorry, but my internet connection has been a little unstable, so I'm sorry if I'm cutting in and out.
So, Chair, if you would like, I can read out the name of each of the guests and have them provide an opportunity to speak if you'd like to do that.
Thank you very much. That'd be nice.
Okay. First, we'll start with Joanne.
Hi, Matthew. I have about 4 different questions, and one is on the report on page 7, section 2.9.1, second paragraph, first sentence. It says the subject application is intended to facilitate the development of a small scale retail that will form part of a larger commercial destination in the town. So what that is telling me, though you're saying that this meeting is only to do with this small variance, this report has significant implications for the people who live surrounding the area. So my concern is what's not being said. And the other question is, what exactly is the noise reduction barrier? As far as I'm concerned, it could be trees that are saplings that are 2 feet high. And where is the loading dock actually going to be? Considering that if the front of the so-called Dollarama is going to be on the west side, I'm facing the east side, which is the back of the property, which I will presume most retail outlets do their loading in the back of a store. So that's number one. And the other part is, what is visual screening? And the last question I have, as you know, I'm very concerned because of the noise that we already experience between the trucks from the 401, the trucks that are in the gas station, the vibrations actually shake our walls. And also the illegal racing of cars in the parking lots there. And I disagree with you. There are already 2 dollar stores in Prescott, one being on Churchill Avenue, which is a small family-run business, and the other is on King Street. So though you may be bringing in additional retail in the area, you will definitely be taking away from these 2 well, one of them on Churchill is a well-established dollar store. So those are my concerns and comments. Thank you for answering the questions that I've sent you previously. And last, where does it go from Committee of Adjustment? Does it go to a planning meeting, or is this approval the final approval before it goes forward?
Okay, so certainly I can try to address each of those questions. So in terms of that note in the paragraph that you mentioned, I believe, so nothing has been submitted from the developer in terms of what the plan for the rest of the property is. So, so certainly we can confirm that. What that particular paragraph was talking about was the accumulation of retail outlets such as the Ultramar, the Canadian Tire, the Independent, the McDonald's, and then this being the Dollarama. So I think it's talking in terms of the broader perspective that it becomes a destination to be able to arrive at and do multiple shoppings in that area, as opposed to being specific to this particular lot and development.
Is there any assurance to the homeowners that no future development will be done there?
No.
Or will in 6 months someone put an application for another 3 retail stores?
That is completely possible. As I mentioned, we've had no applications to date.
Okay.
In terms of I think we'll try with the visual screening. On the east side of the parking lot, or sorry, on the east side of the building, between the rear of the building and the eastern most, which is joining your lot. There would be a number of trees that are planted along there. I believe they're to be eastern white cedars that will be able to go. In terms of the noise barrier, it will actually be a noise barrier, and we foresee it being 8 feet tall. The exact design and materials being used would be determined by a professional that designs those types of barriers.
Would they be
given-
similar to the ones that are on the 401?
We don't exactly know that. It certainly wouldn't be that tall, but it would be a sound absorbing type of material and design.
Is, as you aware, when there is cement or concrete, it actually bounces noise upwards. And that's why we get so much noise from the independent parking lot from the 401. That's a known, without being an engineer, which I am not, it's a well-known fact that noise will actually bounce off of concrete. So is 8 feet sufficient enough to be able to block the noise, given that our building is definitely more than 8 feet?
Certainly,
And that's where our bedrooms are.
So we would absolutely defer to the noise expert as opposed to being able to say that one way or the other. In terms of the placement of the loading, it is on the east side of the building, and there isn't a loading dock. It's simply a door where we would expect smaller cube type vans to be delivering merchandise and taking it in on that side of the building.
And how big are the trees going to be?
Those particular trees, obviously being planted, I don't exactly know when what size they would be, but they grow up to 15 meters tall.
So the question is, will we still be alive by the time that they've grown? If they put in 2 feet saplings of these trees, I won't be around to be able to experience the noise reduction from the trees.
Trees are more of a visual aid, whereas the noise barrier would affect the actual sound.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other questions that I haven't addressed? Okay. Next, we will ask Deborah Rowland. So do you wish to ask any questions, Deborah? Okay. Next, we will move to Fran Stafera.
No questions.
Thank you. Next, we will move to Elaine Bolton.
Yes, thank you, Matthew. And also thank you for answering all my many questions I had. My biggest concern has been the tree line, of course, and the water runoff, which would occur for parking lots and the big piles, as we already get a big lake in our backyard in the spring, which doesn't really hit the drain, and it dissipates about the first part of May. But that's neither here nor there. That's what we've been used to. And you've addressed those comments, but the big thing, are all the trees going to be taken down next to my residence?
So I think I'll let Colin speak to that to see what trees they are able to maintain.
Which lot is yours, Elaine? Is it on the last one on Mackenzie?
Yes.
So anything beyond the property line of this property, like between your house and the property line, nothing will be touched there. I don't quite know how many trees would stay. I'm looking at the plan right now. The idea was to plant enough trees that would satisfy the city and the homeowners. Unfortunately, with having to do stormwater management on site, sometimes that takes away trees and natural earth. But yeah, we would always intend to try and save anything we can.
That's good news. I know we went out and measured it off, my son and I yesterday, and we actually, towards the east, we wouldn't lose, if that were the case, we wouldn't lose too many trees. And if we could have all the trees left from that point on, that would be great. Doesn't look like much in the winter, but in the summertime, we can't even see through it across to McDonald or Canadian Tire or the grocery store. We never hear road noise as compared to Joanne, who hears all the noise. She has no trees, but it's a good block right now. So, and I know you've addressed for me the comments about the water, so I'm satisfied with that. A question, reply to one of your replies, Matthew, was about the pathway and the people parking on Mackenzie and Fishel. You said that it wouldn't be feasible that they do a study on it, and that people would not carry their groceries all the way and walk through the path, but they do. They park along, I think any of the neighbors will attest to that. They park along Fishel and Mackenzie. I've even seen them block the pathway, get out of their car, walk to the grocery store. And if a handicapped person came with their little cart, they couldn't get through. Now that happens a lot, and I'm sure that Joanne or Fran or Debbie could attest to that. So that's one thing that does happen. And the other thing is, when I asked about a crosswalk, you said that the town would be willing to paint a crosswalk. Well, they would be willing, or they will do it. That's my other question at the end of the path.
So certainly I can say that we will paint the crosswalk that will run from the end of the path across Prescott Center Drive, and we will add the appropriate signage. To address your parking concerns, we will add no parking signs around that path area to ensure that no one parks in front of it. And we will step up our observation of those in the area that are parking and walking, because obviously that's not what the intention is, and we want to be able to support the quiet enjoyment of everyone.
A lot of that does happen, and this time of year it happens mostly after dark. You'll see that cars are sitting there, and they've left their cars, they've gone over to the grocery store, or I don't know what time Canadian Tire closes. But as for the rest of the questions, I know I asked you a lot, and thank you for answering them. If those beautiful trees can be retained from that line on, I'm okay. So thank you.
Support what Elaine is saying, Matthew. The other thing is, she's absolutely right, because we see it directly. But we have quite a few motorcycles that use that path at about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd say. And if you're asking me while I'm up, I have trouble sleeping. So there are quite a few motorcycles other than handicapped vehicles that are going through that area. The one question I forgot to ask that Elaine spurred on is, as you know, we've been maintaining the property from the east side of the walkway to our fence line, which is where our property line. Will there be any direct impact to that area? Because we've planted those 8 trees, as you know, there.
So the intention is that the walkway would be paved. It would be approximately 3 meters wide and maintained by the town. So I believe I'm just going to go back to Deborah Rowland. Did you have comments?
No, my concern again would be the noise, like when the trucks are unloading and loading at the receiving dock. Like, what time do they come? Are they going to be here at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning?
Perhaps Colin can speak to that, but my understanding is that they normally do their deliveries during business hours.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard. We've asked Dollarama for their typical delivery sort of schedule, how many trucks a week and what time, but we have not received that from Dollarama.
Okay.
Just to follow up, the Brockville Dollarama is about 8,700 square feet, and this one would be 10,000, so a little bit bigger than the Brockville one near the west side of town.
I just wanted to say a couple more things. So when I drove by the property, I noticed that you're going to be removing several birches. Is that correct? Like all those birches are going to go. Am I correct on that?
No, they're not birch. They're not birch.
Oh, what are
they're
they?
poplar.
Oh, it's
Poplar.
poplars. Okay.
Yeah.
But I did notice like there are animals who have made their homes there.
Yes, lots of them. We have
Yeah.
pileated woodpeckers all the time, not all the time, but often. And lots of woodpeckers, squirrels, blue jays, chickadees, nuthatches, and they frequent it all the time. And but they
So,
are
like,
poplar. They look
Okay,
like
thank
birch,
you.
but they're
They
poplar.
do, yeah. Yeah, from far away, they look like birch.
Yeah.
So thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess like I would really want it stipulated that no construction or no taking down trees happens until it's already not quite mating season, but past the worst of the winter at the very least, so that animals who are dependent on food stores in their nests currently aren't displaced and made vulnerable. I think like that's the least we can do if we're going to take down all their homes.
Colin, can you speak to the intended start time if it was approved?
At this point, I don't think anything would be starting until spring. Just with the availability of materials, everything is being pushed back. So we haven't tendered it or talked to any contractors on behalf of the owner, but sorry. Yeah, it won't be during the winter. I think that's for sure. Likely when half loads come off in the spring would be the first time anybody would, assuming everything is approved and permits are issued.
Next, Molly Hovland.
Hi, I don't really have any questions, but and I'm sorry, I'm not entirely prepared because I just received my letter at 3 o'clock this afternoon to find out all about this. But just in listening, I just have a couple of comments. I kind of agree with Sandra about the parking. I think it's a massive overkill of parking spots for a Dollarama. I don't live in Prescott, but I do own the house attached to Joanne. My mother lives there. The intent is for me to move there. And I'm from the city, and we don't have Dollaramas with that many parking spots in the city. So and hearing that the Dollarama in Brockville is actually smaller, I am also a little concerned that we have 2 other Dollaramas, like Joanne said, in town. And you know, I'm all for Prescott bringing more and more retail and opportunities for employment. And I also think that, you know, Prescott's a great retirement place for people to move, and we want people to move there. We want people to build houses and be in the community. But I mean, $3 stores and the dollar store on the Churchill has 2 other businesses beside it. And what do they have? Like 8 parking spots along the front and another maybe 8 along the side. It just does seem to be an awful lot. And you know, if the parking was reduced, maybe the building could be shifted a little bit. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not entirely prepared for this, and I just wanted to add my 2 cents to that. And I agree with Sandra that there's a lot of concrete going, and I just think that's the wrong direction.
Okay. And then Will Trainer. Did you have any comments, Mr. Trainer? Unfortunately, we seem unable to hear you. Oh, there we are. We're able to see you, but we're not able to hear you at this moment.
Normally use MS Teams, so unmute. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, not sure. I've never used Zoom before. I used MS Teams. A couple of concerns I have. You've got this building. It's going to be close to Joanne and the other lady. On top of this building, you're going to have I don't know, bunch of HVAC units or something like that. I don't know how tall this building's going to be. Assuming it's going to be about 20 feet or so. You're going to have equipment up there, HVAC equipment that's going to be running. It's going to be operating during off business hours, not as much as it will during business hours, but it will be creating noise. You're going to have lighting around this. So I'm not sure how you're going to eliminate, the spreading of that light out to the other areas, right? So I know you're going to you're going to put that lighting down, but how are you going to guarantee that it's not going to, you're going to get light pollution into the other spaces? With respect to this walking path here, I use that a couple days a week. I use that to walk to the grocery store. I don't know what it's going to look like when this building's in here. I don't know what I'm going to see. I don't know if it's going to be appeasing to me or not. And as far as the parking lot is concerned, the parking lot's bigger than the building. And yeah, I kind of question whether it needs to be that big. And agreeing with one of the counselors, I don't know if the person that owns this property owns the land beside it, but to me, it would be better to go west. It would have less influence on everybody. But I don't know if they own both parcels of land. So, but my main concern would be the noise from the HVAC equipment on top of the roof. You'd want to make sure that they designed it so that that noise didn't keep people up at night.
Perhaps Colin, can you speak to that?
I'm not the mechanical engineer that we have designing this, but I'm sure Sean can speak too, but most HVAC units are efficient these days and probably not much louder than a residential air conditioner outside. I'm a civil engineer, so I can't really talk too much about the mechanical. Just for everybody's knowledge, I checked the Brockville standards for parking are 1 space for every 15 square meters. Prescott's are 1 for every 20. Yeah, we haven't designed this to make as many parking spots as possible. It's to meet the town standards. I think, Matthew, you knew that we had to add a couple of spaces to get up to 48.
That's correct. And so to give an indication, if this was in Brockville, there would be 66 spaces.
I did a rough count on Google of the Brockville one, and there's about 90, but that also is for the restaurant as well that's nearby. Can I speak about the rest of the site, Matthew? I mean, there's nothing planned for the area to the west, but the developer does want to do something at some point. So the intent is to try and maximize the available site size. That's why this lot will be severed from the big parcel, and I'm sure some sort of commercial development. I don't think restaurant, but anything from a strip mall to, we don't know for sure. That's just speculation, but he does want to continue to come to Prescott to build. That's all I have.
Thank you. So I think I've mentioned all of the guests, and so now we'll turn it back over to the committee.
May I ask about the land? If he does own the land to the west, could there not be, if he is planning to develop that as well, could that not be where some of the parking would go, rather than, then you could have the two properties adjoining, sharing the parking area?
Well, we're only doing the design for Dollarama at this point. If he decides to build it, and it's on two separate properties, so there'd have to be a shared parking agreement or an easement, access easement or something. Moving it over there now really isn't possible because he doesn't know what's going to go there, which would hinder his ability to have fire lanes and parking and everything. So.
I have a question. Okay, so I guess I'm also wondering, what is the point of having this large landscaped area next to Prescott Center Drive? Why isn't the building being moved closer to Prescott Center Drive?
So there is a requirement to meet a 10-meter setback from the road.
So what if we relaxed that setback a little bit?
So that would have implications on snow plowing, stormwater management, those types of things.
What would those implications be?
Certainly we don't want any building to be too close to a roadway where snow plowing is occurring. I can perhaps let Colin speak to what's involved in moving the building forward.
Because I just want to point out that O'Reilly's and Canadian Tire are right next to the roads, right? There's like a road that goes right by. So why would that be any different?
So they're internal roads as opposed to public roads. And so it would be considered a parking lot, not a road.
Oh, I see. So that one that wraps around, but it's the same road, right? It goes right around, doesn't it?
No, the road stops where the independent parking lot begins. All of the rest is independent parking lot.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the intent with where the building is located was to meet the 10-meter setback. We had talked to the town about potentially reducing the front a little bit, but the consensus was it's safer to have it 10 meters, 30 feet back from the road for pedestrians, for traffic, for snow removal. There's a ditch that runs through the sort of between Prescott Center Drive and the Dollarama that drains basically all the way over to McDonald's into the storm pond. So we have to maintain that, but with the ability to add sound barriers and visual blocking at the back, screening, it keeps the building the proper setback from the property line.
So Colin, it's Joanne Pickavett. When you were looking at the demographics of Prescott to support such a large store, how can Prescott substantiate a store that's larger in Brockville? I mean, we just don't have the demographics. If I believe 60% of the people who live in this town are retired, and and well under income levels. Like, where did the demographics to substantiate the size of a store come from?
I am not the owner, and I do not work for Dollarama. I'm an engineer in Brockville. We were hired to design the building and the site plan. That's all I know.
To clarify, there are 3 Dollaramas, actual Dollarama stores in Brockville.
May I weigh in as well? So I own property in Prescott, but I actually live just within Edwardsburg Cardinal Township. And pretty well all of the people within Edwardsburg Cardinal Township come to Prescott for groceries and Canadian Tire. So there actually is a fairly large land base and population that doesn't truly live within the city limits of Prescott, but does most of their errands within Prescott, particularly that complex, with it being right off the highway.
All right, does any other committee members have anything to say? All right, I'll just address a couple of things. This committee really doesn't have much to do with the size of the building. We have a setback to consider, and yes, it'd be nice to move it. I do understand why the owner wants it there. I prefer if he moved it. However, it is an industrial park, or not industrial park. It's a, you know what I'm trying to say. It's a shopping plaza, whatever. And there are going to be more developments in that area. To answer that one gentleman's thing, you're right. The HVAC units today are very quiet. I work with them all the time on the roof at the plant, and they're really not much of a concern. And if by some chance it came up, there's lots of barriers that we put around them that absorb the noise, and so the neighbors never hear those running to start with. Would I like to see it moved? Yeah. Can we do that? Not really. Is the rest of that going to be developed? Yes, it will be, because that's exactly why that whole site is in there, was to get developed. It's unfortunate that other developers put the houses even closer to it than what they used to be. But our only purpose here in this meeting is to grant them that setback easement, and that's really what we have to vote on right now. I do really appreciate everybody attending the meeting and having comments, because it's great to get people involved in this town, because lots of times it's pretty quiet. But so everybody has heard the motion. I would like to put it to a vote, and I can't always see everybody, so if you'd just like to, maybe Matthew can see everybody. I'd like to take a vote on this motion.
Chair, you don't have a mover and a seconder yet for the motion.
Oh, did I not ask for that?
No, you just read the motion and then moved into discussion, which is allowed as well, but if you we can't pass it if you don't put it on the table.
Okay. May I have a mover and a seconder for this motion?
Slunder.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Just one question before we go. What's this going to do to our property value for our homes?
So it's not something that we know in terms of property value. Property values go up and down on a regular basis, so we don't and can't weigh in on what this particular development would do to any particular property.
Okay, but our taxes would be based accordingly, I assume.
Taxes are always based on assessment as determined by the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, and they would take into determination proximity to parks or commercial amenities, those types of things.
Okay,
Okay, so we can have a vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi, Megan Wynan.
Hi, Slender.
Sandra?
I'm opposed. I think they can make it smaller and make it fit. I don't think they have to make it that big.
Am
I
the
just
only
want to
one?
point out, can I just say something? I've been on this committee for 6 years now. I have, sorry, Lori, are you muted? Oh, you're muted. Are you muted? Yeah, you're muted. Okay, somebody else has got their mic on. I've been on this committee for 6 years now. I have voted yes to everything. This is the first time I'm saying no, I don't agree with this vote.
That's your prerogative. And just a little bit of history, Sandra, we've only, in the 20 years I've been here, we've only turned down 2 because people were asking for a lot more than minor. And I will vote for this. Has everybody voted now?
I believe so.
Okay.
So just to confirm, that was 4 individuals that were in favor of it and 1 that was not.
Okay, so the motion's carried.
Yeah. So in
Sorry.
terms of for the residents, we will, once all of the committee members sign off on the decision, it will be sent to everyone that was in attendance this evening, or followed up with me in terms of submitting questions. And so with that, if you disagree with the decision, you are able to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. That information on the appeal process will be included in the letter of decision.
How long will that take, Matthew?
In terms of,
If there's an appeal that's submitted, right, which we're going to gather people from the residents to appeal this, I'm presuming we will. I certainly will lead this and get as many people as I possibly can. How long will the appeal process take?
we do not know it. That's completely up to the Ontario Land Tribunal in
Okay.
terms of their processes and how they move forward with appeals.
Okay, and any one of those people who voted yes, they're more than welcome to come and spend a few nights here. I have the bedroom all waiting and ready and able. They're more than welcome to come.
Thanks for the invite. This development has a lot of hoops and jumps to make before it's approved. But at the present time, I will call for a mover and a seconder that the Committee of Adjustment meeting be adjourned at 6 p.m. May I have a mover and a second?
I move to.
I'll second.
Matthew, can I just speak with you for 1 moment before everyone goes? Or sorry, after everyone goes.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.